let's bring in Arthur Rosenberg. He is an aviation attorney. He's a former pilot. Arthur, thank you so much for being here. One thing that listening to Secretary Duffy when he was with Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States there, he said that we want to determine what caused this as quickly as possible. Given the conditions of last night, where it was clear skies and you already have the audio coming out of air traffic control, how quickly can the National Traffic and Transportation Safety Board determine the cause of this catastrophic accident?
Yeah, so there's two ways to look at that. First, our sympathies go out to the families of the victims and the victims on both the American Airlines flight and on the military Black Hawk helicopter. So the bottom line here is the NTSB has certain timeline protocols. They have to put out an initial statement within 30 days. The final report can take 1 or 2 years. But as a practical matter, from what I've seen and available information, I don't think it would be terribly difficult to determine what the probable cause of this horrible disaster was in relative short order.
Okay. And the president said he would be transparent with us as soon as they have more information, Arthur. But there's two things happening simultaneous here. So one of them is investigating what the actual cause was of the accident. But at the second thing is really sort of reshaping the FAA. And President Trump talked about how in his first term, he reversed Obama policies, DEI policies, and then, of course, President Biden came in, reversed those again. He wanted to revert back to looser restrictions that allowed more people who might not have necessarily been qualified to hold those positions within the FAA. How long does it take for an administration that is only 10 days old to reshape, weed out what's not working, and make Americans feel safe in the air again?
Okay, so let's answer this two ways. Let's deal with the objective facts, and then there's the political determinations. It's in terms of what happened here, from my point of view, this was an air traffic control foul-up. They detoured the plane from its initial runway 1 at Reagan National to runway 33 in Northwest. It brought us closer to the helicopter. There must have been a breakdown in communication between the airplane and the controller and the military Black Hawk helicopter and the controller. By the way, the military controller, the military pilot is also talking to a military controller. So somehow in that litany of people involved in the sequence of events, there was a breakdown in communication. Now, assuming that this was an air traffic control foul-up, which I do believe it was, if you have a systemic problem within the air traffic control, within the FAA, from a policy determination, DEI or otherwise, we're going to let the politicians ferret that out. I'm not going to pass judgment on that. Here we have a controller who was speaking to the American Airlines flight. Apparently there was some communication to the Black Hawk pilot. Do you see the other airplane? In that moment, in my view, that was a mistake. The two planes were very close. The controller should have told the helicopter pilot, hold your position, turn left, turn right, climb, descend, basically get the hell out of the way of an American airline plane on final approach. Whether that's DEI, whether it's an overworked controller, whether something missed, something to be determined.
So I want to follow up on some of the funding that we've been talking about with the FAA. I think if anyone has been on an airplane in the last 5 years after COVID, a plane has been delayed because of staffing shortages at the FAA. I don't think anyone wants to be spending more money, right? We all love DOGE because we're focused on exactly where money needs to be going and how to use it efficiently. But is this a question about staffing shortages and funding of FAA?
Yeah, so over the last decade, the number of operations of aircraft moving every single day has absolutely skyrocketed. In my view, the number of controllers, ground and air, has not kept pace with the increased boom in traffic. We need more controllers. We need better trained controllers. The system is growing. You can't have constraints on the people who are issuing commands and controls to aircraft and at the same time have the number of operations skyrocketing. That is a formula for disaster. And unfortunately, last night, we got the first inkling of what that could be. That being said, I want the flying public to know you have about a 1 in 18 million chance of, God forbid, something like this happening. Flying is safe.
You know, that the corridor that we're talking about here into DCA is one of the most congested in America. And it got busier, actually, because of the FAA reauthorization bill last year that allowed more flights into DCA. It's been congested for a long time, and there have been a lot of people who can handle that just fine. But do you think it's gotten to a point, especially with the FAA shortages you're talking about, that maybe we shouldn't have so much traffic coming into DCA?
Yeah, so there's a fine balance between economics and safety. The Federal Aviation Administration in our country actually has a dual role, safety and economics. They're in the business of controlling aviation, air traffic controllers, certifying airplanes, and they're also in the business of promoting aviation. Those two things clash at times, and the clash usually manifests itself in something unsafe, an accident happening, which unfortunately is what we had last night. In my view, we need a larger, more robust air traffic control center with the FAA, and we need them in other areas too, including certifying airplanes at Boeing and otherwise. There's just not enough people to go around for the growth that we've experienced in aviation over the last decade.
Arthur, before we go, there was something, this is related to something you said earlier, and I'm just going to read you. This is something that Pete Hegseth said, the defense secretary, related to the accident. He said there was some sort of an elevation issue, talking about the Black Hawk, that we have immediately begun investigating at the DoD. Is he referring to the altitude and the height at which that Black Hawk was flying, the same as that CRJ, the American Eagle flight? Is that what he's referring to? Why was that helicopter and why was that jet, why were they flying at the same elevation and the same altitude?
Okay, so this is not rocket science. When you have a commercial airline at low altitude on final approach, they have priority almost everything else that's going on in the area. Here we had a military Black Hawk helicopter conducting a training operation, basically cut off a commercial airline on final approach. They obviously were at the same altitude, where we're not aware of the altitude differences. Certainly the controllers weren't. But you always give deference to the airplane on short final. Here, the military plane was conducting a training operation. My view is that they probably, the pilot of the Black Hawk was probably using night vision goggles. Night vision goggles are notorious for distorting perception, distances, altitudes, colors. You can see the instruments, it gives you kind of tunnel vision in front of you, but you don't have the same field of vision that you and I have when we walk around the street. Did that contribute? In my view, not knowing all the facts, but I would say based on what I've seen and heard, probably yes.
Arthur, thank you so much. Arthur Rosenberg, we do know that night vision goggles were aboard the helicopter. We will wait to find out if indeed the pilot was wearing them at the time. They were flying VFR, of visual flight rules, which is not instrument flight rules, so that's by sight. It was a clear night. But Arthur Rosenberg, thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.